Only till I was about 14. Any onlys? Where my onlys at? Yeah, only child? It's not a family, right? It's just three people hanging out. My parents would be like, we're a family. Like, we're a death away from a partnership. This isn't a family. Like, I had friends be like, I gotta go home, it's family dinner night. Look, well, I'm gonna have pork chops with a married couple. So... enjoy your family meal. And go be a third wheel again. Just every night. I hated it. You can't do anything, right? We tried a board game night once. My mom was like, you want to play Clue? It's like, sure. Was it you? No? Then it was you. Game over.
Good morning. It's Friday, Policecraft Friday, June the 7th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and policecraft. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now, Stu Varney with the headlines.
Take it away.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Friday Jobs Day. Yeah, the numbers are in, and here's what we have. Big surprise. A very strong 272,000 jobs added to the economy in May. That was not expected. And the unemployment rate moving up to 4%. Again, this is a strong report. How will the Federal Reserve react to that? Here's how the market is reacting, as in the stock market. Not well. Dow Industrial is down about 150, S&P down 25, the NASDAQ off about 85 points. Now here's interest rates going straight up. The 10-year Treasury was yielding around 4.3% before the numbers. Now it's 4.43%. That is a very big jump. The 2-year was 4.75%. Now it's moving much closer to 5%. Another big jump for the 2-year. As for Bitcoin, not much impact there. $71,200 a coin. Oil moving to $75 a barrel, just a little higher this morning. Gas, though, continues down. $3.47 a gallon for regular. Diesel down 1 cent at $3.82. All right, that's the jobs report. Now, politics. New Fox polls spell good news for Donald Trump. He leads Biden in Arizona, Florida, and Nevada. It's a dead heat in Virginia, which Biden won by 10 points back in 2020. Biden himself is in France and showing his age. He seemed on occasion to be confused. He didn't know where to go. This morning, he apologized to Ukraine's leader for the delay in delivering weapons. He blamed Republicans for it. First Lady Jill Biden has returned to America, and about 10 minutes ago she arrived at Hunter Biden's trial. There's speculation she will be a character witness for him. She returns to France tonight. Who pays for her 24-hour Europe to America round trip? On the show today, the decline of America's big Democrat-run cities. Chaos in New York after Governor Hochul halts a plan to charge drivers $15 and up to get into the center of the city. To replace the revenue, the governor proposes a new tax on New York City businesses. Just what we need. It's Friday, June 7th, 2024, live from New York. Varney and Company is about to begin.
Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney's My Take.
That's the markets. Now this. New York has become the poster child for Democrat big city failure. In the latest episode, a new toll to drive a new toll to drive in the center of the city. It's been dropped weeks before it was due to go into effect. It's been replaced by an extra tax on business, including small business. This is just one more way that New York story. It's more than a New York story. It's relevant everywhere Democrats have been entrenched in power. Management is rife, mismanagement is rife, recovery distant. It was called congestion pricing. Any vehicle entering the central part of New York City would have had to pay $15 and up for each trip each day. The environmentalists loved it, less pollution. The central planners loved it, fewer traffic jams. And the bean counters adored it because it would bring in $1 billion a year. Everybody else hated it. The haters won. And Governor Hochul issued an indefinite pause on the whole thing. It's probably done for good. Instead, the governor wants $1 billion tax hike on business. It's called the payroll mobility tax. Good Lord, payrolls will indeed be mobile. They'll leave town. Imagine that. The city is still reeling from the pandemic. Office buildings half empty. Migrants wander the streets. And shocking crime scenes unfold on TV every night. And now, a new tax. What a mess. And this is the city that is proud of trying to put Donald Trump in jail? Second hour of Varney just getting started.
So, Stuart Varney again, he tells a nice story, but what's the moral to the story? No answer. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Patriotic Shorts.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die. And these shields, boys. Remember this day, man. It will be yours for all time. Spartans, lay down your weapons. Get them!
I actually have a huge thing that happened to me in third phase that did nearly, in my mind, almost end my career before it started. You're out at San Clemente, you know you got a few weeks to go, you're going to graduate, it's all going to be good, and they bring you out to this field. They have CS gas, so tear gas. You're only exposed to CS gas in boot camp for like 5 seconds. It's super short. In buds, in third phase, you're going to sit here and take this entire canister for like 3 minutes. They put you in this square where you're all like in formation, and they're like, all right, take a knee. And so everyone takes a knee in the field, and they're like, there's only one rule: don't run. And they hold out their CS gas. They hold their gas mask on, and it's a sea of white. And fight or flight kicked in, and I sprinted without even thinking. I'm talking like I probably experienced
like, where the is he going?
It was like 0.1 seconds into this event and got absolutely speared by my instructor. And he was like, get back in the group. No one else ran. They're just taking it like champs.
Only one tank survived and one BRDM after the attack. All other BRDMs and tanks were destroyed in the first minutes of the fight right away.
These audio recordings were obtained from the Kremlin and verified by polygraph.info.
To make it short, we've had our asses kicked. So one squadron
lost 200 people right away. Another one lost 10 people. And I don't know about the third squadron, but it got torn up pretty badly too. So 3 squadrons took a beating. The Yankees attacked. First they blasted the out of us by artillery. And then they took 4 helicopters up and pushed us in a merry-go-round with heavy caliber machine guns. They were all shelling the holy so they tore us to pieces for sure, put us through hell. And the Yankees knew for sure that the Russians were coming, that it was us Russians. Our guys were going to commandeer an oil refinery and the Yankees were holding it. We got our asses beat.
I began to notice that there were manifestations of, I guess, PTSD or depression really coming from Afghanistan. I felt like I was so self-aware that it's like, no way. Like, I don't feel like I have PTSD. I actually feel like I'm proud of the deployment I did. I'm proud of what I'm doing now. I want to go deploy again. I have issues with my shoulders that are becoming a big enough problem that it's hard to do the job. Pain in my legs from the shrapnel. I am now sleepwalking, basically living out these like near-death experiences 5 times a week at least, still to this day, by the way. You know, honestly, I had like a breakdown in South America. Like, I had all these weird thoughts of like, what the am I doing here? Like, I kind of hate this job. I just like spiraled into like an ungodly depression in like the first few weeks I was there. And my teammates had to step in and like take my gun away from me in my room in fear I would shoot myself.
Dan. He was a private first class in Company C of the 116th Infantry. His name was Marvin Farmer, and he was on patrol in the suburbs south of Aachen, Germany, part of a team that was clearing the remains of bombed-out houses. It was mid-October 1944, and the crisp autumn and beautiful foliage belied the treacherous weeks of difficult, at times brutal fighting. Farmer came across an elderly German man hidden in a basement, seemingly terrified at the prospect of being found. The old man was relieved to see it was an American. In thickly accented but fluent English, he told Farmer, "I was hiding gasoline, and that's punishable by death." Then the old German started crying. "Has Philadelphia been completely bombed out?" he asked nervously. "No," said Farmer. "The United States hadn't been touched." "Then my prayers have been answered," the German whispered. "My daughter lives there. She must be safe." Farmer gave the man his food rations and let him keep the gasoline.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little bit of motivation.
Every day when you get out of bed, life's standing right there to kick you in the face, man. Life is going to throw all kinds of crazy stuff at you. And you have to be ready for it, and you got to deal with it. Are there going to be some moments when you want to give up? Yes. Will there be some moments when it's going to seem like it's impossible? The pain that you're experiencing, the disappointment that you're experiencing, that you're going to say, it's not worth it? Yes, that's going to be right there for you. It's going to be in your face, telling you to go back. You're going to start listening to the buts, and buts will have all kind of help and support from your family members and friends saying, I told you, fool. You're going under this positive thinking stuff. Look at you now. Bet you wish you had that job now.
When you have a dream, that dream will always be tested. The pressure in your life right now has a purpose. It's not crushing you. It's pushing what's on the inside of you out. It shows you who you really are.
Don't never let anybody take your belief in yourself away from you because they hurting inside. Don't you never let nobody do that. Always believe in who you are in the darkest moments, man. In the darkest moments, when you at that pain, when you at the bottom, know that you're going to get back up. But you got to believe that you're going to get back up.
I don't care how hard you fall on your back. Because if you can fall on your back, you can look up. And if you can look up, you can get up. You can get through this. Because you're bigger than this. And when you get to the other side, you're going to be better. You're going to be bigger. You're going to be bolder. So we got to get through this. And I'm saying that the fact that you're still here, that you're still breathing, you've got some more work. And you owe it to yourself. So when you get up in the morning, that you can look yourself in the face and say, hey, I'm living my life on my terms. That's important. Not to give up on your dream, not to give up on yourself. Don't get it twisted. E.T. get tempted just like everybody else. But where I come from, everybody don't get this shot. I invested too much to quit. I made too many sacrifices to give up. Have you lost your mind? You know how hard I worked to get here? I put in too many hours. I sweat too much blood, too much tears. I worked hard to get here. Didn't nobody give me this. No, listen to me. That's why it's so easy for you to quit, because you ain't paid nothing for it. I paid too much. I didn't grow up with wealth. Didn't nobody pay me. I worked for this. Sweat, blood, tears. I earn every dime I get. I work for this. And you think I'm about to get this up? You work for this. You put in time. This is not the time to lose your mind. This is the time to go all in. You want me to tell you it's okay to quit? You want me to tell you it's okay to surrender? They may not give it to you. Nobody might take you by the hand and take you there. But what I'm telling you is I did it with my mind and my heart, and I envisioned it. I saw myself when I was still homeless, when I was still a high school dropout. I saw myself one day being where I am right now. I don't care where you are. Use what you got to get what you want. Use your mind. Use your vision. Use your dream. I dream my way out the hood. I dream my way out. And then I would get up every day and I would grind hard. So when life happens, I don't just sit there and cry. I buck back. The darkest hour is just before dawn. So you better not give up. You better not quit. You might be 3 inches from your goal. You might be 3 yards from your goal. You might be 30 yards from your goal. And if you quit now, you give up now, you may never reach your reality. You're not a victim. Stop talking about I can't, I quit. I don't think I can make it happen. It's impossible. Stop talking like that. Stop cursing and start believing. Champions keep going when they don't have anything left in their tank. When they don't have no more. When it's over. When they're tired. When they're frustrated. When they're ready to give up. When they spent their last dime. It's when you have nothing left. It's when you depleted all your money. When all your energy goes. When you have nothing left. That's when it's showtime.
Things are going to get harder and things are going to get tougher. So what you've got to do is you have to get harder and you have to get tougher. Become stronger than the things you're up against. That's how you win.
I wish I could tell you that if you just keep going, it's going to get easier. I wish I could tell you that, but that's not the truth. The truth is you got to find something within. You got to find something within, and that's got to push you, and that's got to elevate you, and that's got to drive you. E.T., aren't you tired? Yes, but I can't quit. I can't stop. I can't get tired. I can't give up. I can't give in. My mama counting on me. My wife is counting on me. When you ain't got nothing left in your tank, you got to think about the people in your life that you're doing this for. And then if you could think about them, you could go one more mile. You could go one more day at work.
You go after and you give it all you had. If you lose, at least you tried, man. I failed. It's 10 times more of a man than someone said, what if? Because what if never went to the arena.
The person who didn't try should feel rejected. The person that didn't try should feel defeated. I tried. I put my best foot forward. I don't feel bad. I gave it 120%. You can't never feel bad when you put forth 120%. You can't let the outcome make you feel whack. I'm not whack. I'm a warrior. I'm not whack. You know how much I went through to make that thing happen? You know how many obstacles I had to get through to make that work? I got through all of them. But I don't feel bad that it didn't work out. I'm a problem solver. I'm not soft. I'm not weak. I don't quit. I don't give up. I don't surrender. I don't always win, but I always try.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Daily Dad for June the 7th.
June 7th. You need to take this time. Certainly somebody always needed something. His wife, one of his 13 kids, a messenger, the pressing business of state. But for a few minutes to an hour each day, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, Marcus Aurelius was unreachable. The 20th century American philosopher Brand Blanchard marvels at what Marcus accomplished there in the midnight dimness, alone with his journal and his thoughts. It didn't matter where he was or what was happening. Marcus stole the time to sit and think and write. Do you? Do you take this time? James Clear, the author of the wonderful bestseller Atomic Habits, said that since becoming a father, he has carved out 2 sacred hours in the morning to do his writing. Sometimes he gets more, but never less. Those 2 hours determine whether he has a good day or a wasted day, whether he is productive in making progress or slacking. A few minutes or a few hours in the morning, at night, or in the middle of the day, the idea of sacred time is important. You have to carve it out. You have to stick to the schedule like clockwork. Protect it as you would a doctor's appointment or a big meeting. Of course, this isn't the only time you'll need. It's just the minimum. So make sure you give it or take it for yourself. You'll marvel at what you can accomplish in those few sacred minutes that you've kept all to yourself.
And that was The Daily Dad by Ryan Holiday. 366 meditations on parenting, love, and raising great kids. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
What burdens us? What's the burden of life? It's this old lie that we will become happy if we just get enough of the goods of the world. If we can just draw enough into ourselves and hang on to it, then I'll be happy. I will not be happy. On the contrary. What do we all want? Well, this lovely word here, rest, it doesn't mean like lying in a hammock. It means fulfillment. It means peace. It means the joy that we all want. How do you get it? You get it by imitating the rhythms and dynamics of the divine life. Come to me, the Lord says. All you who are burdened by this lie you've been told, and in me you'll find rest.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, "The symptoms of today's cultural disease are conformity with nothing to conform to, timidity expressed in a self-shrinking concern with trivia, a kind of obsequious anxiety to please the unknown standards of some non-existent authority, and a pall of fear without object." Unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the 33 strategies of war.
Interpretation. The Bishop of Noyon was not a harmless man. His conceit had made him think his power had no limits. He was grossly unaware of the offense he had given to so many people, but no one could confront him or bring his behavior to his attention. The abbé hit upon the only real way to bring such a man down. Had his parody been too obvious, it would not have been very entertaining, and the bishop, its poor victim, would have won sympathy. By making it devilishly subtle, and making the bishop complicit in it as well, de Caumartin both entertained the court, always important, and let Noyon dig his own grave with his reaction, from the heights of vanity to the depths of humiliation and rage. Suddenly aware of how people saw him, the bishop lost his balance, even alienating the king, who had once found his vanity amusing. Finally, he had to absent himself from court, to many people's relief. The worst colleagues and comrades are often the ones with inflated egos, who think everything they do is right and worthy of praise. Subtle mockery and disguised parody are brilliant ways of one-upping these types. You seem to be complimenting them, your style or ideas even imitating theirs, but the praise has a sting in its tail. Are you imitating them to poke fun at them? Does your praise hide criticism? These questions get under their skin, making them vaguely insecure about themselves. Maybe you think they have faults, and maybe that opinion is widely shared. You have disturbed their high sense of self, and they will tend to respond by overreacting and overplaying their hand. This strategy works particularly well on those who fancy themselves powerful intellectuals and who are impossible to best in any kind of argument. By quoting their words and ideas back at them in slightly grotesque form, you neutralize their verbal strengths and leave them self-doubting and insecure.
And that was the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, if you're a Democrat, you should be voting Republican because the general distraction afflicting contemporary society does not allow the emphasis and energy of rage to arise. Rage is the capacity to interrupt a given state and make a new state begin. Today, it is yielding more and more to offense or annoyance, having a beef, which proves incapable of effecting decisive change. In consequence, one is annoyed even by the inevitable. Annoyance relates to rage as fear relates to dread. In contrast to fear, which concerns a determinate object, dread applies to being as such. It grips and shakes the whole of existence. Nor does rage concern a discrete state of affairs. It negates the whole. Therein lies its negative energy. It represents a state of exception. Increasing positivization makes the world poor in states of exception. Back in a minute. Thank you. Some words on Pride Month. Pride Month is a way of sticking the thumb, the socialists sticking their thumb in the eye of the capitalists and conservatives in Canada, the United States, and basically around the world. And it's designed to create social friction, and which they're hoping will result in a revolution in socialist paradise. Now, for the average gay person, if you want to be accepted in society, then you have to lead with your heart instead of your crotch. Now, the problem with that for the average gay person is there's no revolution in being accepted by the overall community. So that's the problem, the dichotomy, the decision that gay people have to make. Do I want to be a revolutionary, or do I want to be accepted in polite society? So if you want to be a revolutionary, lead with your crotch, but don't expect anybody to invite you into their house to have dinner. Okay, and if you want to be accepted by the community, lead with your heart, but don't expect to start any revolutions. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Policecraft, second part of Chapter 21, Going Forward.
The Eric Garner case on Staten Island is profoundly unsettling, but perhaps not for the reasons that have gotten the most media attention. Garner was committing a minor offense, selling loose, untaxed cigarettes, and he resisted arrest. Although it didn't look like much by way of resistance, it certainly justified police use of force against him, especially given his 6'2", 400-pound frame and the fact that the officers on scene didn't know if he was armed or had any arrest warrants. The type and intensity of the force required to take him into custody is its own debate, as is the exact cause of his death. The autopsy report listed several contributing factors beyond any type of chokehold, including Garner's obesity, congestive heart failure, and asthma. What isn't up for debate is the woeful lack of medical care he received on scene. "I can't breathe," Garner reportedly said 11 times. Then he stopped breathing. And no one, not the cops and not the responding medics, took appropriate action. The hospital center that dispatched the treating ambulance later paid a $1 million settlement to Garner's family. The problem, historically, with suspects saying they can't breathe is that if they actually couldn't breathe, they wouldn't be able to utter the words, "I can't breathe." You tell suspects this all the time, and you're not alone. You'll hear firefighters and paramedics tell patients the same thing in the field. It reaches the point where you can get tone deaf to such claims because you've arrested scores of people who assert any and all forms of health trouble, including shortness of breath, in hopes that the cops won't want to deal with their various maladies and they'll be able to wriggle out of an arrest. But Eric Garner's death, as well as other deaths, in July 2011, a man named Derek Williams died in the back of a Milwaukee patrol car after complaining of shortness of breath for 15 minutes, remind us that as police officers and first responders, you have to take such claims seriously. You have to listen. You must call for an ambulance and closely monitor the person who's in your custody. Even if 98% of the time everything's fine, that 2% is what it's all about. You will make mistakes on this job. I once wrote in a police report that a Milwaukee Fire Department ambulance responded to the scene to assist the victim, which would have been all well and good, but I was working for the San Francisco Police Department at the time. Would have been a bear of a commute for that med rig. But do this kind of work long enough, and the errors you make on the job could be critical ones. Maybe you'll broadcast the wrong direction of travel for an armed robber, sending all responding units west when the suspect went east. You might lose control of your squad car during a pursuit of a murder suspect and barrel into a pedestrian. The doctors think she'll live, but doubt she'll ever walk again. A felon pulls the trigger on you, and you return fire, hitting the suspect once and a bystander twice. You will make these mistakes because you are part of a dedicated but flawed profession doing a job where you need to be a psychologist, centurion, street lawyer, pilot, coach, marksman, and soothsayer. The public looks to you, and there are times when you let them down. Let yourself down. The mistakes come with a heavy price. So what now? Let your failures leach into your system? Let them define you? Maybe not. You've got to learn to forgive yourself on this job, Rolf Mueller used to say. So you take what happened and teach it to others to help them avoid the same pitfalls. The goal is progress, not perfection, someone said once. You can't sit there and wring your hands forever. You move forward. It's always got to be forward. In 2007, Richmond, California, was America's 9th most dangerous city. City Hall started an experimental program that supplied targeted chronic offenders with both a mentor and a monthly stipend ranging from $300 to $1,000. By 2015, Richmond's homicide rate dropped to the lowest in 33 years, and officer-involved shootings declined to less than 1 a year. Hard to say if there is cause and effect here. The police department was hard at work too, not just City Hall, and you gotta play the long game to know for sure. But it's hard to ignore those numbers. Richmond was trying to make things better, which is what we all want. We want reform. And police departments across the nation are working on those very reforms. Here are some of the most common ones. Body cameras. SFPD got them in 2016. When you know you're on camera, you're on your best behavior. And isn't that what everyone wants? Cops on our best behavior? Body cameras aren't an all-encompassing solution. You may be wearing a camera, but your mind is far from a video recorder. Body cameras can't pick up on the auditory exclusion and tunnel vision that comes with, for instance, an officer-involved shooting, as I have previously mentioned. They won't capture your prior knowledge of a suspect's penchant for violence as you grab him to stop the fight before it starts, or the closeness of the pissed-off crowd you know is forming behind you. But they're a good tool and a good start. Better training. Some of the most effective training involves scenario-based exercises where you learn to slow things down and make a plan before you rush into a hot scene so you don't create your own exigency. For instance, it's police instinct to immediately go hands-on to control someone's movements, but letting someone in a mental health crisis pace around can greatly de-escalate them and aid in the intervention. In these encounters, the ask, tell, order, make spectrum is greatly elongated. Time and distances are your friends here, and you might stay on ask for as long as the situation allows. Also, courses that emphasize medical and first aid skills can help officers recognize the difference between a chemically altered lawbreaker who wants to fight you and a guy who's in desperate need of an epinephrine injection to stave off an allergic reaction. More refined screening procedures to keep problem recruits out of the academy. Better tracking of officer activity, including keeping records on the demographics of all subject stops in order to guard against racial bias. A renewed emphasis on peer leadership. FTOs, veteran cops, and street supervisors need to be the ones who step up and call each other out when needed. It means more when it comes from someone you know and respect, as opposed to a bunch of high-minded department goals and objectives on a glossy pamphlet no one will ever read. Something else I would toss into the pile here is the fact that after the salary and benefits are added up, a single officer can cost the taxpayers anywhere between $60,000 and well over $100,000 a year. Is that officer providing the community enough safety, security, and competent police service to warrant that sizable cost? Some cops never ask themselves that question. Every one of us should. Bottom line, if there's any profession that should hold itself to high standards and constantly strive for excellence, it's law enforcement. But the department and media buzz around police reform can end up grating on the average cop, especially the aforementioned OGs. It's as if you've been screwing up royally all this time and are in desperate need of your city to bring in some think tank doofus to put a bunch of flowery hug-a-thug crap on a pie chart so you know how to do your job. What the fresh hell is this? Hey, I've been doing de-escalation techniques on violent suspects since 1987, pal. But sometimes you gotta get in there and mix it up because the bad guys don't handcuff themselves. The unfortunate underbelly of police reform is that some cops will overthink their response and use lousy officer safety techniques with dangerous suspects just to appease a squeamish public. I've seen that more than once on the SFPD. What you don't want is cops second-guessing themselves and getting hurt over politics. We need to listen to the public, but they need to listen to us, too. Our lived experience should count for something. Maybe you take exception to the aggressive way those officers just took a suspect into custody, but that right there is the make in ask, tell, order, make. Just because something's hard to watch doesn't mean it's unjustified. You open the paper, and there it is. Another cop convicted of a destructive felony. There are certain expectations the public rightly has of law enforcement, and one of those expectations is that police themselves won't commit crimes, that they won't take bribes, tip off drug dealers to police activity, and sell meth, like Bakersfield police detective Demasio Diaz, won't grope, rape, and sodomize women like Oklahoma City officer Daniel Holtzclaw, whose 13 victims reported he assaulted them while on duty. Won't steal the life savings of their own father like Irwindale police officer Dennis Alva. The honest cops have a message for the Diazes and Holtzclaws and Alvas of the world. You disguised yourself for a while as one of us. You fooled us and gained our trust. But you have been revealed for what you are. You hurt people. You tarnished the badge. You have been sentenced to prison, and it is right that you are going there. You have been cast out of the Brotherhood. We don't know you anymore. The cops I know are different. They took the job for the right reasons and do it the way it's supposed to be done. They believe in a cause greater than themselves. They pursue and arrest dangerous criminals and take their guns away. They read to kids in schools, give away pumpkins on Halloween and turkeys on Thanksgiving, and run youth sports and wilderness programs. They replace a family's stolen Christmas presents out of their own pockets, give generously at fundraisers for fellow officers who have been hurt in off-duty accidents or lost a loved one. And speaking of giving generously, the SFPD Police Union annually gives thousands of dollars to charitable causes and is, I would hazard a guess, far more active in the community than many of the activists who disparage it. Let's get down to specifics. I'd like to name some cops on the departments I've worked for, like Sergeant Tracy McRae, who was raised by a single mother in the very type of housing projects she now patrols as a 26-year veteran assigned to Bayview Station. Tough, affable, and soft-spoken, she still goes hard at a stage in her career when a lot of officers are dialing it back. If you happen to meet her, congratulations are in order because the San Francisco Police Fire Post named her 2016 Sergeant of the Year. Or how about Officer Stephen Pinchard, my former partner in Milwaukee, who just called it quits after 2.5 decades of police service all on the street. A plain-talking Wisconsin native with a long fuse and unblinking resolve in the face of crisis, he worked gang crimes, hunted parole violators, and good-naturedly but persistently questioned why the Packers drafted Tony Mandrick ahead of Barry Sanders in the '89 NFL Draft. During the years I worked with him in our station's toughest patrol sector, I never once saw him belittle anyone, use excessive force, or, in short, act anything other than honorably. In March of 2016, he was first on scene to a report of gunshots inside an apartment complex near 92nd and Beloit, where he encountered a man named Dan J. Pop, who had just methodically murdered 3 of his neighbors and tried to murder a 4th. Pinchard caught Pop coming out of the building with a rifle slung over his shoulder, forced him down at gunpoint, and arrested him. Pinchard is a hero of the First Order, although he would never say so. But I sure can. I hope he's enjoying his retirement. No one has earned it more. The district where he finished up his career feels the same way. They just retired his locker. Or take San Francisco officer Kevin Downs. He's a sturdy guy, but forgive him if it takes him a while to get up. He's still working through some mobility issues after taking a bullet to the skull while responding to a report of an armed suspect in a shopping mall. The round missed his cerebral artery by less than a centimeter. That hasn't stopped him from continuing to work with the charity he and his wife Corey co-founded, Ranchin' Vets, which assists war veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan readjust to civilian life and get jobs in ranching and agriculture. In fact, as soon as he could stand up straight again, his first public appearance was at a fundraiser for his organization. "I guess I had to get shot in the head for this many people to come out," he said during his opening remarks. He's got that dry cop humor, too. McRae, Pinchard, Downs, and so many more. Those are the cops I know. You crest a hill in your patrol car, and there's the city spread out before you. That whole skyline, your office. You're feeling pretty good. You just won a fight with a parolee whose considerable mass earned him the street name of the 300. He went for the gun in his waistband, but he never got there because, together, you and your partner were stronger than he was and got the cuffs on without a shot fired. Or you just identified a rapist off a crime alert. Doesn't matter that he was wearing shades and a ball cap. You've arrested him 6 times and can recognize him by his brow and jawline. The radio crackles with a report of an armed robbery vehicle and lists the driver's name. You already know his street handle is Cheddar. He hangs out in the 400 block of Minna and keeps his dope in the end of a drain pipe in the alley. You feel like you're at the center of all things and have the overwhelming sensation that this is the right job for you. You like putting bullies in their place. You enjoy solving puzzles. You are comfortable around death, violence, and chaos. You took this work because you believe in right and wrong and do your best to act accordingly. But you've been around the block a time or two, and you're no idealist. You know now that such neat divisions do not always exist in law enforcement. You must get good and comfortable in the gray because you'll be spending a fair amount of time there. And your moral compass, which used to point due north, now, with the passage of the years, shows a tremolo here and again. The job has hardened you. has stretched you out, and in the end, you may not even wish you had taken it. They do these surveys with city workers after they retire. They ask them if they had to do it all over again, would they still have picked their chosen profession? The last nationwide figures you heard, 80% of firefighters said they'd still be firefighters. For cops, it was around 30%. Part of the job that wears on you is that police missteps and excesses become front-page news, ripe for second-guessing in papers and roundtable discussions. People outside the police sphere want cops to do a whole lot better. Cops inside that insular world know that the public is lucky it works out as well as it does. It gets complicated if you dwell on it much. For you have a profession inherent with paradox. You need your city while at the same time you're desperate to get away from her. You love the job even as it corrodes you. But you still awake in the morning knowing there is honor in this work, if not always satisfaction. You wake in the morning knowing your cause is righteous. Applications to the Dallas Police Department surged after the assassination of 5 officers and the wounding of 9 others. In 2016, in Evesham, New Jersey, police officer Brian Strockbine saved 3 lives in 10 days. He first revived a 69-year-old assault victim with CPR. 4 days later, he pulled an unconscious man out of a smoke-filled car and brought another woman back with CPR a few days after that. As the cartoon caption says, maybe everything isn't hopeless bullshit. Maybe Martin from High Noon was wrong about the tin star meaning nothing. It matters. It'd damn well better matter. You remember as a new cop, a veteran officer drove you around the district and gave you the insider's tour, pointing out this corner where he got stabbed and that block where a father was gunned down in front of his 2 children. You've been on the job for a while now and have your own memories of the city. As you drive, you pass through an intersection where you once chased a murder suspect in your squad car. Pure evil, this man. You were duty-bound not to let him get away. And you remember keenly how you and your partner nearly died in that same intersection when the semi-truck didn't hear your siren and whisked right in front of you. So close. So very close. Inches away. No, less than that. Millimeters. No, it had to be closer. What's smaller than a millimeter? But then you caught up to the killer's car and stopped him cold. To have looked death square in the face and come out the other side with your quarry in handcuffs, that feeling is better than any drug. You round the corner and see a teenager slouching against the wall of a liquor store. He reminds you of the teen you first arrested for a felony when he was 14. Rotten parents, even worse life. You tried to look out for him. He wasn't your friend, but he was far from your enemy. He chose his own path and made it to 17 before getting shot through the mouth in a dope house. You keep driving past the duplex where a man, out of work and despondent, held a butcher knife to his neck, and you think about how you talked to him and called him by name and convinced him to put the knife down just by listening and letting him know that he counted. You see the parcel warehouse up ahead, where an active shooter murdered 3 of his co-workers and shot 2 more before you went in with a contact team to stop him. Cavernous space, low light, fire alarm blaring, floor slick with blood. And when you found him and shouted at him to put the gun down, he murmured something to you before turning the weapon on himself. These are memories you feel at some cellular level. Some of them you don't know quite what to do with. Some are threaded through with lasting regret. The dying woman you couldn't save. The missing child you never found. You'll make new memories today, but the old ones linger and echo. With each corner you turn, they're out there waiting for you. The sad and the sublime. The ghosts and the devils.
And that's the end of Chapter 21, Going Forward, from Policecraft by Adam Plantinga, and who we got read by Steve Marvel. Back in a minute. Thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute.
Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.